Good afternoon. Welcome to the Kingston City Land Bank's public committee meeting of the Acquisition, Disposition, and Construction Committee. It is Friday, October 20th. My name is Mike. I serve as the Executive Director. We ask members of the public to limit their comments no more than 2 minutes per speaker. And with that, I turn the meeting over to the committee chair, Mr. Aaron Chilich.
Hello and welcome everybody and all of our future viewers on YouTube and other places. So on the agenda for October 20th, I think Mike had a couple suggestions to the agenda that I circulated. One of which was that we should discuss the disposition of 111 Downs in an executive session because of it's an ongoing disposition where conversations can affect the sales price and the results. So I'd actually like to suggest that we move that up and get that out of the way to start, and then reopen to members of the public. So would anybody like to? Joanna, I see. Joanna, you want to make a motion? I think Jada's making a motion. Joanna is on mute, but I think she's making a motion.
Motion to open an executive session. Is that right?
Yeah.
Second.
And all those in favor? Perfect. And we are in executive session. So why don't we go on now to just quickly at the top of the agenda, I put prior as is disposition updates. So the two properties we've sold previously. Where we have a little bit of news, more news than we've had in a little while, which is that the buyer of Hamilton, Mike reached out just for an update, and the buyer of Hamilton said that that asbestos abatement is supposed to start on the 26th, I believe. So it is kind of middle to end of next week. And then demo and the renovation will start after asbestos abatement is done. So I think we just want to keep an eye out and make sure that it actually is going on. And if in a month it isn't, try to get an update from him again on what the situation is, and maybe ask him to come talk to the board about what the delays are and what's going on. Or talk to ADC what the delays are and what's going on. But glad to hear things might be moving forward this week after some delays. Henry, I haven't seen any activity there. I don't know if anybody else has. Mike or Daniel. Mike has.
So I'm just reading from my post-it from a few weeks ago. We have a monthly meeting with Novo, and unfortunately that had to be canceled today. But a month ago, what they said was that they've undertaken or are undertaking asbestos and mold work. They have secured an architect. They are working with a child care regulations expert to make, I think, the determination between what type of child care facility it will be moving forward. And they have conducted selected demo and are in design phase. That was their update a month ago.
That's pretty good. All right. Yeah. Great. Any discussion about either of those? All right, then Legacy Cities project summaries. I guess Kyle and Owen, I hand it over to the two of you. Do you want to would you mind sharing your screen so it all have to go pull up in our emails the documents? Thank you.
You want to go first? Sure, I can jump in. See. Screen. Okay. Yeah, this is just the financing update I sent around. Couple things to note here. German and Union, we just completed the sale on Union, and German, we're in the process of beginning that closing. So we have received the developer fee for Union. That's this HDRB piece item here. Yeah, that's almost entirely going to our developer fee. So we received it for Union, and the German one they funded, but they just put into a reserve that we'll get once that sale is complete. So that's exciting. we're splitting that with Meta, and yeah, just got wired in this week, so it's exciting. Yeah, and then we'll be closing up German and Union basically for the financing purpose of this project. But yeah, otherwise, I think Owen's more in the weeds on the process of the general construction, but from a financing standpoint, not much else to report. Everything's good.
So just understanding the graph. So the HCRB piece is the developer fee.
Mhm.
And that gets split 50-50 among us, or close to 49-51 or something.
It's actually 50-50. There's a difference between the membership interest and the percentage interest ownership. So we read it closely. It's 50-50.
So the total for all 4 projects is 205, of which 100 comes to each.
It's a little less. It's 193. There's about $12,000 of other line items in there, but yeah, this 96,000 that we've drawn to date is half the developer fee. We got a quarter for each house fee. So
Cool.
It's our first earned developer fee. First time we've done this.
Congratulations.
And Rob is our partner is very happy to receive it. He's aware of it. Okay, it helps.
Has he ever, is this his first time doing a project like this as on the developer side as well?
Yep.
That's great.
I think it really helps.
I did want to note that I was informed that Rob gave a donation to the church for their kindness of allowing access to the site. Obviously, he did that because he's a great guy, but I think we should talk to him about helping, I don't know, splitting that or paying him back or something, because he shouldn't really have to do that.
Sure.
It's very generous.
I didn't know he'd done that.
Yeah, Rick told me. He's a lovely man.
That's very sweet. Oh, is there a reason, was it Rogers? Is there a reason that HCR there got, what is, I mean, obviously, like the percentages are never going to be just to 100, but is there a reason we went to 200% on the HCR funds there on that?
yeah, it's just timing based.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just timing. The HCR funds didn't get kicked into the project until we spent down all of the Novo funds, and basically the bulk of the union work was getting done when those funds kicked in.
Gotcha. That makes
You'll
sense.
see it basically, yeah, that we're way over for union, but way under in other projects with other funding sources. So yeah, it all balances out. I think the most important thing to look at is the total project levels.
Makes sense. Thank you, Kyle.
Anybody can see my screen now? All right. So in contingency land, you know, we're basically 3 down, 1 to go on these houses. So we got 2 completed, 1 sold. Hurley has had its final inspection. It's awaiting C of O, but it's passed with some things the building department wants some follow-up pictures about. So, you know, while this is showing you're 90% through the contingency on German and 83% through Hurley, and so we're highlighting it red, we're also essentially done these projects. So Rogers is the one that we're deep into now, and trying to play catch up schedule wise, and going through and making sure things get ordered and questions get answered, and that we stay ahead of things that are going to be coming up in the next month or so. I every time I show this, I kind of discuss this field, which had like a start date at the beginning of the year, which makes this schedule deviation seem pretty extreme. For purposes of discussion, I'm setting this at the beginning of June, which is while work was done previous in the building, it's these 6 months that are when work is really happening at Rogers. So I'm setting it because I feel like it helps us just understand the scale of where the project is schedule wise, which I feel like this feels about right to me, which is like, yeah, it's behind. And I think it's going to catch up by this completion deadline.
Are there particular factors that like is it just timing across all four buildings? Is it like specific unforeseen things that are causing delays or certain subs? Do you have a sense of
it's the contractor's capacity and the fact that we threw another building for them to work on in the middle of it. And so basically their strategy for now, I would say, the past 2 months has been like, all right, we're going to wrap up Hurley and Franklin. We're almost done. We're going to wrap those up so we can really, deploy with full force at Rogers. And it's been a little bit like, oh, well, it took a little bit longer at Hurley than we wanted. And yeah, Franklin, they're like, everything's almost done, but there's still 2 guys working there every day trying to wrap stuff up there. And so it's kind of like each day, oh, we're going to get everybody over to Rogers. So there are people working consistently at Rogers. Electric is happening, and plumbing is starting to happen. So it's happening. It's just Maeda's internal resources getting allocated. So yeah. I'm not sure I have much else to say about Legacy Cities. You want me to touch on Franklin Street? We've Franklin 124 Franklin is basically almost done. Their HVAC install is getting finished, and then we'll be. I mean, I don't see how we wouldn't have a final inspection in November. So, seeing as completion dates middle of January, we're all good. So
It's great.
Yeah.
Seems like they're about ready now. Like it's not done, but everything's in basically.
Yeah. Like I said, I was waiting on HVAC final to
Right.
do final inspection. So it'll be soon. They got a handrail to put in the basement, but it's almost there.
Very, very cool.
That's it.
Rebecca and Joanna, I'm not sure if you guys know that house has been vacant since roughly 1983. So I think getting this done is quite a victory for the organization. And we owe it to Owen. Thank you, Owen. And Kyle and Stacy.
You too, Daniel. But that's a nice house too. It's nice now. It really
So
it wasn't nice before. It's nice.
It's from like the uptown neighbor, like I guess right by you, Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I walk by that house. It's so beautiful. Like, I'm
Have
so
you
happy.
been inside that one?
Hmm?
Have you been inside that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so nice.
Very nice.
Well done.
I would love to see some more of the houses inside or whatever. I just feel like I have this huge basket full of information about a lot of houses that I'm trying to gobble up. The more visual I could get in 3D, the more I would understand. But so
yeah, Rebecca, we said at the board meeting we were gonna walk you through. So did you reach out to me about that? Because I'm around, but
okay, let's do that before it's so cold that it's not fun.
All right.
Great. Thank you. What now?
Well, if we are done with Franklin, then I think the next thing would be Legacy Cities disposition progress. I mean, we talked, a few of us were on the last call, the comms and fundraising call, but it was updates on phase 1 sales and then phase 2 marketing. So phase 1 sales, Mike, we have one sold, one, yeah. I'll let you.
Yeah, 237 East Union is sold. The challenges that we had to work through going through this new program for the first time with different parts of the state working together in this way for the first time have all been resolved. So some of the bickering about whose money goes where and who gets to be in what place that's all taken care of. So we hope that the second sale will be faster. We think that it will. We've received a clear to close letter, which means the bank and the state have signed off as far as providing availability of funds for a mortgage to the purchaser. That happened yesterday. And so we've started the process of getting everyone to sort of line up and herd cats. And I think Kyle is taking more of a heavy hand this time. I hope he's seen what it looks like. And I think, the closer you get to it, the more you can affect it. And I think it's very rewarding actually to kind of see how you get into the granular pieces of this. You can make it go faster sometimes, and sometimes you can bang your head against a wall and get nothing done. But right now we're hopeful to have a closing date imminently, say a week or two. We might know what the closing date is. But I said that last time and it was several months because of this conflict within the state, but we don't have that anymore. On the marketing campaign, Kyle, would you mind maybe just kind of jumping in with our last call and what we talked about?
Yeah, sure. We are in process of our marketing campaign. I guess our next major deadline is this November 8th registration deadline to get into the application process. So we've been doing a number of things. Mike printed out, I think, 1,000 flyers, which I think he's distributed, and anybody can feel free to knock on Mike's door anytime and pick up flyers if you want. As Aaron evidenced. Yeah, so we've been doing community outreach. Mike just sent around, I believe, a email about our info session for purchasing these next houses. We're holding an info session on Tuesday night, 6 p.m. You can register on the KCLB website if you're interested in attending that as well. So just now we're kind of taking any ideas, and Mike and Aaron and Rebecca are going to be visiting some churches this weekend and doing some more local outreach. But yeah, we're trying to get as many people hear about this as possible. Open to any ideas, but yeah, lots of things. The bus, that's the big news since our last meeting. The bus has campaign is launched. I hope some of you guys have seen it around town. I don't know, anything else, Mike?
No, you
Just
covered
curious, is there are you able to see who is how many people are registering or numbers, and are you starting to see who's qualified, or you don't? That happens in November?
Not yet. That will happen probably after November. That will start to trickle out. But right now, what we're doing is forwarding the registrations to Pathstone, and then they're working with them to complete the application. And some of those application packages have been returned to Pathstone, so that's good. And then they will move forward with the process of connecting them with the bank that they select, and hopefully receiving a pre-qualification letter for a mortgage, and then we will be able to have our lottery once we've done all that. So it's multifaceted, but we're kind of in the mid-beginning-ish part of knowing who qualifies and who doesn't.
So yeah, I'm just curious if you're noticing greater or less numbers than the last.
I would say trending less right now. I think we should all try to make as much of a concerted push as we can to get folks to register. I think the info session is a big part of that. We have, as Kyle mentioned, some increased fervor to try to get out there and do as much as we can. There's no magic bullet that I've found to it yet, But-
Anything to like the Instagram account? Like, I haven't heard any of like the info session on the Instagram, like a listing or something. Have you done?
I,
Forgot about it?
I missed that email apparently. I will post something. It's this coming Tuesday.
Tuesday, 6 p.m. You can register at kclb.org/homes. And the newsletter that just went out has a direct registration link. So if you're on our mailing list, you have that link directly.
Okay. Joanna, it came up on the comms call. Do you know if there's a way to like blast something to like every teacher?
Kingston Department of Education.
Yeah.
Not really. Like I said, I sent it to two principals, one of elementary school and one at a universal pre-K, but like that's really the most I think can be done. Like it's tricky to like get into these spaces, but they did receive it and they seemed excited about it. So I could follow up with them. I'll be there next week.
Thank you.
And even I mean, it's small, but I have a parent-child class. Like I realize like places like that are great because they're young families, a lot of them are renting. So and they have children. So it's a good fit.
Definitely.
They don't know about it. I think we really are every time I've spoken about KCLB, it's like, oh yeah, I think I've heard of that. Is that the land? Like thinking it's, there could be so many different things. And so I think there's just like a messaging issue that we need to address over time, hopefully, but like just to really clarify what it is. And because people just get so mixed up in like government things and like city organizations. Yeah, so.
There's a lot of negative, I mean, if you listen to the news, there's a lot of negative press about accessibility of mortgages and things like that. So I don't know. And that home ownership is now even more out of reach. There's a big story out there about that. And if there's this special mortgage program and mortgage offer that comes with these houses, that I don't know if that's appropriate to talk about at the info session or to put on the website or whatever, but I think that might help people feel like they could apply. I mean, I don't know. Are you guys all homeowners? Do you guys all own a home? No, I don't know about you, Joanna, but I think that the act of trying to buy a home is very intimidating, can be very overwhelming. And, trying to apply through an organization that you don't quite understand is also complicated. So that's why Mike and I were driving around talking about long-term relationships and conversations with people. But anyway, so it seems to me that the new mortgage program is something that would be really helpful for people feeling like they could make it over the hump, right? And that they should apply. So I just registered for the info program, so hopefully I'll be able to learn more.
I'm hopeful. This is a brand new mortgage program, so I'm hopeful that the state will follow through on its commitment to connect us with loan officers who administer that program or participate in it, and that they can come to the info session. It may be too soon, unfortunately, and until lenders have officially signed up and are able to distribute their own marketing materials for it. Technically, we can't really point anyone towards any individual lender. That's kind of a no-no, but Pathstone, our homeownership counselor, traditionally will present a list of various lenders once they get into the counseling stage, and that's how you get connected with a loan officer. It's a bit of a disconnect, and I wish we could do differently. I'm very excited if we can start working directly with loan officers at these sessions in addition to Pathstone. But we'll see. I hope it comes into focus very soon, that product. We'll see. Because you're right, Rebecca, it is helpful if you can qualify.
Yeah.
It's just a very different mortgage environment than we've been in many years. In a town where the price of houses is what 50% more than it was 3 years ago or 4 years ago. So that's pretty scary for a lot of people that would be eligible for these houses, right? So
yeah,
intimidating. So how do we, you know, what information can we make accessible and clear and precise that says, you know, hang in there. We're there for you, you know. But you don't have 12 houses to sell yet either. So it's not like,
No.
you know, it's not like you have 68 units that you got to get rid of by December, right? So
Just 3.
You think it's worth reaching out to like the larger broker firms like Wynn Morrison and stuff?
I think when we tried that in the past, talking to market rate brokers, they had some hesitancy around the difference between what they do and what the affordable folks do, which is
guess
kind of
I-
excluding.
Yeah, I guess I just feel like on the level of like if somebody, you know, wants a rental for 1,800 a month or whatever, they could be
Mhm.
like, hey, there's also this other
It's a good
opportunity,
point.
just to
That's-
point them in the direction.
It's a good point. I'll reach out to them and just say, just wanted to make you aware we had this opportunity. Here's how it, you know, here's the info, if you know people. Yeah, sure. It's
I
great.
know Wynn Morrison has quite a long history of kind of trying to support young folks to be able to buy. I think
I
they
had
use
sent it.
for their own mortgage product.
Sure. Do
So,
you know when? I think,
not real. I've met him a couple times, but he never.
okay,
I know Bill Carey who is an agent there and also a former alderman.
okay.
He actually called me yesterday. I'm not sure why.
Okay.
Yeah. It just might be
I had
another.
tried in the past with the only broker that I have experience with it, Wynn Morrison, and she said effectively like, great. And then I didn't really hear anything. So I can push that a little harder and reach out to brokers that responded to our RFP and that are working with us in broker price opinions and things like that, because we do have a more of a number.
Mhm.
I mean, I can introduce you to someone at
Yeah, please.
working with me.
That'd be
And,
great.
I just can't remember the name of the brokerage. It'll come to me in a minute.
Okay.
It's those Buffett people. What is it? The Buffett people?
That's Novo.
Novo?
Novo.
Huh?
Berkshire
No,
Hathaway.
no, the real
Oh,
estate agent.
Berkshire Hathaway.
Berkshire Hathaway. Yeah. He's with Berkshire Hathaway, but he's a friend of mine. I'm working on a Frolic project with us. And so, or not Frolic, we call it the Not Frolic project, but he might be interested anyway. And,
Okay.
and if brokers broker a house in this way, do they get anything or are they just doing it out of the goodness of their heart?
I guess we could pay a commission-y thing. I think some way or another, if they were effective, I guess we could do it, but all they're really doing is making referrals. Like they're not taking folks all the way through the process like a normal broker would, because they kind of have to hand them off to Pat Stone. So I think referral fee, maybe. I mean, just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of all the, I'm sure that Bob shows houses to people that want to move into Kingston. That's part of why we're working on this other project, right? So who can't possibly buy into Kingston anymore, right?
Sure.
Who would be good parts of the community, so I'm sure that as someone who's brought his children up here, Bob would be interested in being supportive. So rather than my misrepresenting anything, I'll just introduce you guys via an email and you can send
Great.
Bob whatever information there is, so he knows.
Awesome.
And he'll probably present it to his group on Monday if you ask him to, and I'll put that in his email also. They have a Monday meeting.
Oh, that's perfect. Thanks.
Because you're not taking money out of their pocket because they're not people that could buy these houses anyway. Houses that are available for a full price at a full mortgage in Kingston at this moment.
Sure.
Isn't that a sad thing to say? Anyway, but he's referring people to you who are going to fall out of the basket, right? His basket.
Makes sense.
Anyway.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds great. I'd love to connect with them. Thanks.
It's very hard to get real estate brokers to respond, I've discovered, but yeah.
Me too.
I have to go, so
Oh.
I'll see.
See.
See you.
Bye, Robert.
So let's, I guess, race through the last things so that we can move on to our weekends. Third Avenue updates. Anything to report right now? I know that the engineers were out, and I think they're going to come in a month to the next board meeting, possibly. Is that the plan? Or
No, they were actually, we could have them come, but I would recommend it sort of be something that they're producing their piece and then we're all digesting it, working with, re-engaging with the architecture and planning firm. So the engineers portion of their first part of the study is due around November 3rd, they said. So by the next meeting, we should have some more updates about engagement and what we've learned and all these things. They're engineering right now. I don't know what that looks like, but it's kind of a black box engineering. So they're doing civil engineering.
okay, great.
Okay.
So Legacy Cities 2 planning. I think partially this is actually per Mike's email to me, maybe a conversation partially about Murray. Or I guess Murray's somewhat separate from that conversation, but
More kind of the city acquisition updates.
yeah, more city acquisition. Legacy Cities, I mean, well, let's just do that then because it all kind of ties together.
Right.
So city acquisition updates, Murray and everything else. If Mike, where should we start today?
I would say maybe Owen, you could run us through the LC2 planning in a couple of minutes, and then I'll finish up with the city acquisition piece, which, like Aaron, you said, they're tied together.
Yeah.
Legacy City 2, we've thrown Stefan into the mix. The architects were measuring it yesterday. We have schematic floor plans for the first 5, and the engineers working on doing mechanicals for those 5 houses. The architect is working on CD sets for the houses, just fleshing out different pages we need, and we got to catch Stefan up, and we got to figure out. We don't have some of the selection stuff, so we have to figure out
any of the selection.
Yeah.
Owen's being great.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out how to say it smoothly, but it's not really happening. So
Yeah, I can kind of give an update on that, and I guess so. Like, I don't know where I think everyone basically understands this. So we've recruited a selection. We have 4 guest designers, one of whom fell off the face of the earth. Haven't heard a thing. Like, I emailed like 3 weeks ago and was just like, I'm just gonna have to call this, like, thank you, but clearly this is not working. So I have a couple people who are interested that I'm sort of honestly just trying to figure out for myself if it's worth it. Like, I just have to be realistic about my own capacity, and honestly, like, managing this has frankly been harder than just doing it. So I wouldn't say it's going great. Like, we'll get there, but my timeline, I am behind on deliverables. And I got an email today or yesterday from a designer saying, I haven't forgotten, I'm working on it, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I think people underestimated how much time it actually takes. So yeah, I'm guessing Daniel's gonna have to swoop in and kind of do a lot of stuff at the last, toward the end, because I just don't know how, whether people are going to come through or not. It's disappointing. But I think is a good lesson in, like, you know, if we try to do this again, I do think we should pay, frankly, like not a ton, but just when people have a contract and a job, they take it a little more serious, I think. I don't know. I think a lot of designers like really loved the idea of it, but actually doing the work is they're just kind of not, and it's really frustrating. So, oh, and I know I owe you a lot of things, and I will get you a lot of things, come hell or high water.
Okay. um, and then Murray, you want me to touch on Murray at all? No.
Sure. Yeah. No, go ahead.
Yeah, we did an RFP for cleaning out Murray, which if you're not familiar is like more extreme clean out, because you kind of have to like build your way up to where you can access certain things safely and bring people in there to work. So and it's got outbuildings and stuff. So, you know, we got clean out prices that are 3 times plus what our normal, what we've had for other buildings, including some rough buildings. So I think people just recognizing the work that it's going to take to actually get stuff out of there safely. And I am pursuing, but I don't have a pricing on just like a whole house demolition without clean out, without asbestos testing, which would mean assumed asbestos. And I don't have that for you yet. So I think the way that Mike and I kind of left it was that would get that and kind of present to you all for some direction. But I think it's something you should at least be thinking about in anticipation for next meeting, because we got 2 RFP responses that are like, I forget, that's like 16 and 18 or 16 and $19,000 for the cleanouts, somewhere in that range. And so, the question is, if you're looking at that plus 5,000 asbestos testing plus whatever the next steps are, whether it's trying to do something with the building or whether it's an as-is sale, that's one path versus if we do take down the building kind of as it is now, but that costs 80,000, 90,000, 100,000. What does that trade-off look like to then have like a lot that with some grass on it that's could be sold to somebody or developed? So those will be your choices.
Well, I think this is a really, I mean, Mike and I have talked about it some. I guess the question for me is like, what is the end game? And to me, like, I see it as no chance in hell are we as a organization going to renovate this building. So, like, I guess my feeling is like, if it's something we want to touch, which I think there's a compelling argument to be made for, at the end of the day, we are a tool to get stuff back on the tax rolls and, find the best and highest use for whatever property that is. I like the concept. I think owning the building is a significant liability. Frankly, I think if we want to do it, I think we should buy it for $1 and sell it for $1 and just like get rid of it as soon as possible. And I don't know, like, I don't totally see the point in expending significant resources to find out that, yes, the building has asbestos. We already know that. Yes, the building has lead. yes, it's structurally a disaster. Like, we know all of these things already.
I mean, I guess I have a pitch, and you can cut me off, Aaron, because I don't know if you want to get into this, but I guess the only thing I'd add is that not that we should go into a plan or a plan where we don't have ways to fund it. However, if we do have access to state money that will pay for the work of taking down the building, I do believe that it is like a community benefit that nobody else is going to do. And whoever is going to buy that building for $1 is going to be lost after that. And so I think Mike has made the point to me to be cautious of, well, yeah, we could take $100,000 from the state, but what are we taking it away from? Are we taking it away from Third Avenue, or are we taking it away from Legacy Cities 2, or
Right.
just be conscious of that. And I hear that. But in the event that we felt like we had state money to spend that would then get refilled because we were doing stuff, and then I guess I'll just keep making a pitch for that. It would be a community benefit that we were like uniquely able to do that the city's not, maybe, and other people are maybe not. So
How much, I mean, I have an odd question, because this is a strange point where this is the tension between kind of our, put it this way, our like the kind of like underlying premise of what land banks do and like what we do, which is like land banks, get properties back on the tax rolls, like buy for $1, sell for $1, and and we do something a little different, which is great.
Right.
No one's questioning that, but how much is like if we were to demolish the property, which I agree with Owen would be a great benefit. Like, I'm not, we could sell the property to the neighbor for $1. How much would it cost? Like, what would the property be worth vacant where it is, like as a lot?
So maybe 30 or 40,000 is, and the broker price opinion was, I believe, between 80 and 100 was the range they gave current condition. Now that's just a very basic, not an appraisal. I do think in terms of timeline, I really appreciate Owen advocating and all of you concurring about the mission-based side of the work that we do, and that's like first and foremost. In terms of timeline, if you think about it with the LBI 2 funding, which is paying for the portion of the hard costs on Legacy Cities 2, if we knew what the pricing was from our general contractor proposals, then we would know if we were needing to use all of that or not. I feel like most likely we'll be able to use every dollar that we have. But if we were able to stretch this out to the point where we didn't make a decision about what to do until after we knew the pricing for Legacy Cities 2, that might work. However, dovetailing into my updates on city acquisitions, the city yesterday, 2 weeks late, has filed the judicial action paperwork for all 8 properties, including Murray Street. So we're anticipating, no one's done this before, but I'm told that we should anticipate 4 months for that. So that puts us right up against January, February. So we could punt and see if this strange exercise that I'm talking about does bear fruit, in which we find that we do have the funds to do this without eating into the otherwise achievable outcomes for Legacy Cities 2 and Third Avenue. We could wait a little while. That's a piece of it, to know for sure that we're making the most informed decision. We're able to achieve the affordable homeownership piece. We're able to achieve the community benefit piece. At that point, as Owen referenced, we may know if there's availability of additional funding, for which it would be good to then show that we're spending the Legacy Cities 2 funding that we do have. So just floating that out there, maybe it's something that we just refine our pricing on and continue to work on Legacy Cities 2 and see what comes of it once we have really good demo pricing or whatever pathway we choose. I do think buying it and selling it for $1 is also certainly an option as well, and that's what many land banks do.
To me, maybe it makes sense to, if we could get sort of comfortable with the idea that we had the money to deal with it should we have to. And I feel like first attempt to just sell it for real cheap
But we have to buy it first.
is worth something. Well, right, I know. So I feel like in order to pull the trigger on buying it, we have to feel like financially we can shoulder the demo cost,
Mhm.
which I would assume there's no reason to do a clean out or any real testing if it's just a demolition, full demolition.
I have a
So
question.
we felt like we
oh, go
could
ahead.
do that. But first, just try to just sell the thing because, you know, it's a probably 1860s building, post and beam construction. Like, I think the envelope of the building probably is actually not so bad, but like every interior, everything would have to go. I think it's structurally just like catastrophe. So I guess I mean to say some crazy person might feel like, yeah, I'm buying like a whole house that, you know, I could save the envelope and rebuild the inside and have a house. And if we can kind of adequately vet those proposals and then I don't know, it's possible. but we would have to feel like if that doesn't work, we can demo it and afford to demo it. And that feels like a real funding puzzle. Because is it still the case that there's not really grant money out there that's like specifically for demo in the way that there was kind of like 10 years ago?
The LBI money that we have allows for demos, so we could use that. That's the
Mike's
only
just-
one though.
Yeah, and you were pointing out that we got a chunk allocated already that we want to make sure we have available for legacy cities too. So we're just drawing against that pot.
Feels like a
Aaron, did you have a question? I want to make a comment.
Go ahead.
No, just that I mean, I think, right, we're experiencing now with Downs, like there aren't that many people who maybe want to do that. And you're describing something that seems even more complicated and more exhaustive in terms of process and not as beautiful technically as what you could get a result from Downs. So I just feel like it doesn't necessarily make sense to bank on that one person. But I do like this idea of like, you know, this service to the community in terms of demolition or whatever, if it's feasible. So I would only feel like I would make that decision if that were really the hope of what we were going to be doing with it, knowing that we had the funds to take it to that place. That's my feeling about it, rather than think like that's the first step and then the demolition sort of like a last resort, or not being stuck with a property when we don't have the funds to demolish it and no one's buying it, you know. That's sort of my feeling.
I think, yeah, I think that kind of is right on with the money, what I was going to say and ask it, which is my vote would be to demo for the community benefit of demoing. But I think if we were to sell as is, my concern would be kind of a little bit also what we're seeing on the as is sales we've done right now, which is that somebody could buy it and sit on it as is. And so if we were to do that, I would vote we sell it as is, and we can put we could sell it as is and put an enforcement mortgage on the property, even as it as is, that says that's like, I've seen this where it's like, I mean, Mike's already shaking his head, but
Sorry.
you're fine. But like you know, I like I've people do enforcement mortgages where it's like, you know, they can be satisfied. You know, if there's a resale, it's satisfied by the difference between the appraised value and the resale value, and some like there's some calculation there, or it can also just be satisfied by kind of either demolition or a certificate of occupancy. Like some way of basically keeping a restriction on the property, keeping our hand on the property while, yeah.
So like,
Go ahead.
I think, I mean, that is essentially what like Detroit Land Bank does. It's what I think most of them do, and my understanding is that the reason it's possible is that they're selling them for $1, so the person is not getting a mortgage, and therefore, but when there's a mortgage, our enforcement mortgage is not especially enforceable. So yeah, I think like you kind of take a page from one of those land banks and say you have 18 months or 2 years or whatever to achieve a C of O. We're not going to sue you at the exact 18-month date, but like you better have a reason you're behind or whatever.
I mean, that's exactly what I mean. We sell for $1, put our mortgage on it so that it's not junior to anything.
Right.
For the appraised value, basically.
Mhm.
We could try it.
I mean, my vote is still to demo.
Well, I will say, like, yes, it is an eyesore. I'm not sure. I buy that, like, the best community benefit is for it to be a vacant lot in what's already a pretty low density neighborhood, and likely, I think a site that, you know, it's not a great site to build on. It's on a hill, basically. And there's a reason we don't see a ton of new construction in the city of Kingston. Like, so to me, not at least making an effort to see if it could be a home during a time when there's no homes seems at least optically off.
I think what I agree to that extent, but I don't want us to get stuck with a house and we don't have the funds to then take it where it needs to go if it doesn't work out. Is more
Right.
what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
no, I totally agree.
So we need to think that like we still have to have the funds, I think, to take it to that place in order.
I totally agree with that.
Because also I just don't want a situation where someone is sitting on a house for tax purposes and just like hoarding a weird property that they're never going to use.
Right.
And then we have no way of ever doing anything for the city with it because they now privately own it.
Right. I think the way to do it is with a reverter. If it can sell, and if it can't, we better have the money to demo. But I mean, I'm not sure that Downs is like the greatest kind of indication of like how this could go, just because there's a roughly $200,000 difference. So I don't know.
People are tired.
But
People are tired. I don't know. The verve and vigor of like, I want to build something like that from scratch right now feels like everyone's just kind of, I know there's people out there, but it's true. Like it's a lot to contend with in the world. So
yeah.
I know you're out there, Daniel. Fighting the good fight.
Showing us all how it's done.
Exactly.
You're somebody who can do, you know, a lot of work yourself. You could have a pretty nice house for about $100,000. So I don't know. Is that the end of our agenda?
That's it.
Can I raise one thing that I just like to raise every 6 months or so? We have, I think, not amended our disposition policy in like roughly 5 years. And I don't, you know, legally, there's nothing wrong with it that I'm aware of. Everything is sort of stated as the land bank may do this. But I also feel that it is wildly unrepresentative of what we actually do. Like it was written before we have done anything. So there's all kinds of discount like there's nothing in that policy, I don't think, that really articulates like the process we've actually done. So I guess I sort of feel like I'll just throw out there, I don't think it's like a top priority in a moment when we're marketing homes and stuff, but I think we should have it in our mind as something to revisit. And
We make it a goal, say in the calendar year 2024, or before the end of the fiscal year, we will revise our disposition. Mike's like, oh God, something else.
probably so sounds great. Yeah,
We did
I don't know.
revise it in 2022, just so you know the last revision to it. And I think you, Brian, and I put a lot of work into just preserving options, but I agree with you, it's not representative. The options we take.
I just think it's like, if you're reading it just as anybody, I think there's a lot of kind of things that feel misleading. Like the land bank may offer this discount program that we have never discussed. And we have no apparatus of doing. Like it's not a thing we're doing. So it sort of gives like false hope. If you say are a public service employee and you see that the land bank may offer this discount, like we aren't.
Right. Okay, maybe we should take a look at it and take away everything that's not actually what we're going to do or what we're doing, and so someone reading it knows what we do, as opposed to what we
I
may
also
do.
think it would make it significantly shorter, which would be
Totally.
nobody wants to read all that. Okay, I said my weird piece about the dispo policy. Shabbat shalom.
You guys can adjourn. Okay, I'm gonna leave.
See ya.
Bye.
Nate, what's up?
If anyone's interested, before we go real quick, I know that I owe Katie Dwyer some stuff about the website. And I was having some real trouble because I'm not creative in this way to come up with some new taglines. So I turned to ChatGPT to see what it said our taglines should be and what our like description of the Kingston City Land Bank should be. And I thought you all might be interested in some of my favorites. We've
Awesome.
got unlocking Kingston's future one property at a time. Not bad, right? Preserving heritage, building futures. Transforming vacant spaces into vibrant places. That one was kind of funny. Where affordable housing finds a home. Empowering dreams, building communities. Those are all the slogans that came up.
Wow.
This is great.
Pretty impressive, right?
Can you also have them do copy for us to market this?
Totally.
That's amazing.
What if
Well,
we
I had it spit out a whole paragraph of like, who is the Kingston City Land Bank and what do we do?
Was it good?
And it's actually like not terrible.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah,
kid you
it's
not.
long, so I dropped it in the chat if you're interested. But it's like pretty good, right?
I maybe shouldn't say this in a recorded meeting, but I used ChatGPT about a week ago to write a first draft of a cover letter. Let me tell you, because I hate cover letter writing. Best cover letter I've ever written. It said exactly nothing about me, which is
That's exactly what a cover letter should do, right?
You're passionate about opportunities.
synergy, a lot of synergy.
Right.
Funny. Not bad. It's really not
Yeah.
bad.
But I will say clearly, even ChatGPT sees that we have a mission of affordable housing. So if we start just selling stuff and turning it over to developers, it might spit out some very different copy. So
That's really pretty good. I'm just
right.
I mean, that's pretty much what we do.
So anyway, I guess this is more for Joanna and Daniel, but I took some of the best ones. I revised this paragraph and I'll send out a couple of versions for
That's
people
awesome.
to look at.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Cool.
all right.
Motion to adjourn.
seconded. All in favor? We are adjourned. Mike, would you stay on for 1 second?